Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on MSc Climate Justice at Glasgow Caledonian University. We're joined today by Charlie Russell, Associate Dean International, who will give us an overview of GCU, Karin Helwig, the Programme Leader for MSc Climate Justice, who will go into more detail about the programme and learning experience. And last but not least, Hannah Wright, one of our current students on the MSc Climate Justice, who can share her first-hand experience of studying the programme. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat box on the right of the screen. And without further ado, I'll hand you straight over to Charlie.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks very much indeed, Jenny, and welcome everybody, and thank you for attending today. So as Jenny said, my name's Charlie Russell. I'm the Associate Dean for International in our School of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment, and I'm just going to briefly introduce the university and where the school sits within that, and quickly hand over to my colleagues. So. So Glasgow, if you haven't been to Glasgow, it's affectionately known as Dear Green Place, and that's because although it was very much an industrial city and maybe the second city of the British Empire at one point, it's a city that has really transformed over the last few years and has a huge number of green spaces and parks. It's one of the greenest cities in the UK. And it has a lot of attractions beyond our universities in the city. So we have a large student population in Glasgow, and there are 3 universities, Glasgow Caledonian being right in the city centre itself. So we're about a 5-minute walk from this building here, which is our city chamber. The River Clyde is very famous worldwide for its shipbuilding years ago, but now it's a place for big entertainment. So we have a lot of conferences and concerts and centre for entertainment in the UK. Actually, a lot of people come just for that. So our city centre campus, we're very close to the different transport connections, railway stations, bus stations. We're very close to the city centre. It's very accessible. It's a new campus. It's been upgraded fairly recently, but the main campus itself was built in the early 70s and extended and has grown since then. But we're right plonk in the middle of Glasgow, and it's a modern, vibrant campus, and I think staff and students really enjoy being there. So just a few things about us. We're currently the top performing modern university in Scotland, and we're overall second top in the UK of the modern universities. And we were just recently rated 40th out of 122 universities in the United Kingdom by the newspaper The Guardian's University Guide. So we're also a top university for research in Scotland, and 72% of our research is considered world leading. So I think there's a lot else I could say. We're very committed as a civic university. We consider ourselves a civic university, and really around sustainable development being at the heart of what we do. So it's really appropriate that Karin and the Climate Justice team are part of that. It's very much part of our common good and civic point of view. Our mission is to bring this locally and globally. We have very high employment rates. 91% of our graduates are in employment or further study within 3 months after completing, which is higher than the Scottish rate. And we have a range of international partnerships, so we're very keen to diversify and make sure that we have a vibrant international and inclusive campus. And we also are very much committed to the Athena Swan Award, which is in recognition. We've been awarded the Silver Award, which is in recognition of our commitment to gender equality, and we're one of the top universities in the UK for that. So it's something that we're proud of, and we're committed to developing further. This is, as you can see, the university is made up of 4 units, if you like. We've got a London campus, but we sit actually physically in the campus. Our building is right in the middle of the campus, computing, engineering, and built environment. So we have a range of different programs, and the ones that we're going to talk about today, Climate Justice, sits within the Civil Engineering and Environmental Management department in that school. But we link across the university, and Karin will talk about that in a few minutes. So we have a lot of resources. We have you know, a range of different facilities. It's obviously, being a School of Computing and Engineering and Built Environment, it's quite applied. So we have a lot of lab spaces. Both we do things on the campus in labs, but we also go out into the field. We work closely with industry, so we're you know, keeping up to date with that. We have a lot of equipment. Our students have good access to that, and you know, it's a fairly, you know, it's a very collegiate place to work. You can see a lot of our labs are fairly modern. We've got and computer suites, so we do have a lot of new facilities, and there's a lot of upgrading going on across our campus at the moment. These are some of our programs. So if you're coming here, there's a lot of different programs that in our school that you'd be mixing with, just to give you a sense. So Climate Justice sits amongst really a large suite, and it's very international at the MSc level. So we do find that our students do mix a lot with the other disciplines, and of course you learn from them too. So it's a fruitful process. All our programs are accredited, and by professional bodies. We see that as a key strength that GCU, Glasgow Caledonian, provides. And you'll see here we've got IEMA. Can't actually see it on that list, but we have accreditation from a number of different really important bodies in the environmental area. We have currently 3 research centres in our school. We do really well with research in our school, so we hold a lot, and we have a Climate Justice Centre, which really was the first of its kind, and works very closely with Karin and the team. So we have a lot of researchers, PhD researchers in particular, but that's an important aspect. But we also have a built environment asset management and smart technologies research center. So there's a lot of research-led teaching in the school. We also provide a lot of student support, and I think that this is one of the things that I'm particularly proud of. Our library and academic support, you know, the services are very strong. We have this acronym LDC, apologies, that means Learning and Development Center. It's really where you can get any support you need about anything to do with your academic training, that you know, around writing or IT skills or such like. We also, I think one of the things that's very unique, certainly compared to when I went to university, we have a lot of personal support. Pastoral care is excellent at GCU, and the staff are very available. We do have a strong careers department, supports people in finding careers and developing their CVs and marketing themselves. And we have a strong focus on health and well-being. There's a specific service for that. And we find it's very strongly used. And it's kind of part of our core, one of our core themes is widening participation and supporting our student body. So we do offer a range of services to support students' careers and employability. So we have a work experience hub. There often are support around finding either work placements or jobs themselves. And we have interactive tools, all of which you would have access to, around CV building, interview simulator, we do psychometric testing, simulator. We have a lot of support there that's really really great and valuable. Also, a lot of, if you're coming in from elsewhere, we have some very nice accommodation right beside our campus. It's literally, it's not right center of the campus, it's right next door, it's across the street. It's that's university owned, we call it Caledonian Court. It's excellent accommodation, and that's something that we make available. There is also quite a large amount of private student accommodation available in the city that we can also support you with. So, I really hope that we'll see you soon on the Glasgow Caledonian campus. Scotland's a great country to be in. We're known for our scenic beauty, and maybe we're also known for our poor weather at times, but you'd be surprised actually how good it can be. But it's a vibrant, thriving place, and I hope that you'll come and join us soon. But I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Karin Helwig, right now, and thank you. Karin, you're on mute.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for that, and welcome everyone. Really nice to be able to speak to you through this webinar before you get to Glasgow. Wait a minute, just let me. This image that you see now is on the wall of the Centre for Climate Justice, and I think it's a really great image that emphasizes, the diversity of the people that are affected by climate change, and maybe also something about the people we are interested in the Centre for Climate Justice and on the MSc in Climate Justice. And so if people ask what is climate justice, I think it's the people side of climate change. A lot of discussions around climate change are very technical, very engineering focused, and we really make sure that people remain in the picture, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. So a little bit about myself. I'm the program leader of the MSc, and I have been for the past 3 years. I'm also a senior lecturer in water and environmental management. And I do quite a bit of research, mostly around water in one way or another. So we've been looking at water resilience, but also at emerging contaminants and micropollution. And you find that as climate change is beginning to put a lot of pressure on ecosystems, we want them to be as resilient as possible as well. And in part, that is understanding pollution and preventing pollution. So that's part of what we do as well. Below there, you also see that my first master's degree was in gender and policy. So it was very people focused. It was a social sciences master's degree. And then I added a more technical degree at GCU. So that interdisciplinarity is something that I've really tried to take. And that's why I'm enjoying this particular role so much at GCU. So I'll talk a little bit more now about the organizational context, as far as Charlie hasn't covered that yet, and then a bit more about what it's like to study climate justice at GCU, a little bit about the centre, the research centre, and about our students and where they've ended up in their careers as well. So, as Charlie said, the University of the Common Good, that's quite a strapline, I think, and we're very proud of that. So what we mean by that is that we really want you to become global leaders, and our previous students have done that. So we're very proud of them. We've seen this entrepreneurial mindset develop and be taken forward into their careers. So students will leave with confidence that they have the necessary skills and knowledge to really make a difference. We are a very interdisciplinary program. And apart from the research centers that Charlie mentioned in the School for Computing Engineering and the Built Environment, we also benefit a lot from the WISE Centre for Economic Justice, which is part of the Glasgow School for Business and Society. So we have researchers from that center also contributing to the teaching. Our kind of history is that in 2014, so almost 10 years ago, the Center for Climate Justice started up under the direction of Professor Tassine Jaffrey. Last year, we became the Mary Robinson Center for Climate Justice, and Mary Robinson has been a global leader in climate justice, and she's allowed us to use her name for the center, so that was a real honor. The master's program started in 2015, and to my knowledge, we are still the only masters in climate justice in the world. So if you want to study climate justice, you have to come to us. We organized the first World Forum on Climate Justice. That's an important conference on climate justice. So that was a really, really great opportunity to welcome lots of researchers into GCU. That was in 2019, and we've done another one since then. And more recently, we went through the first program review, and that's something that happens as part of our quality control every 5 years. We do an in-depth review of all the master's programs to make sure that they are up to date, that they draw on the latest research, and that they meet the needs of the students going forward. So we were approved with commendations at that point. So a little bit about the program structure. I've mentioned a couple of times that we are an interdisciplinary program, and the way that is that is taken into the program structure is that in every trimester, you've got 2 trimesters, and in both trimesters you study 4 modules. One is delivered directly by a member of staff from the Mary Robinson Center for Climate Justice, so really hot off the press in terms of feeding research into teaching. Then we have 1 module that is delivered by somebody from the School for Computing and the Built Environment, so it's slightly more technical, but not to worry about that. But yeah, they cover the real kind of environmental management side, but also bringing the people side back into that. And then we have 1 module from the Glasgow School for Business and Society, and those are a human rights module, realizing human rights in practice, and also feminist economics, and that is also just a critique of economics, of modern economics, in the way it doesn't always acknowledge everything that's going on in the economy. So it works very well as a general gender sensitive critique of economics. And then in addition to that, you have an elective module, and you can choose that from either of the schools, and there are also some schools that are more some modules that are more focused on developing your professional skills. And then at the end of that, after you've done 8 taught modules, you are ready to undertake your independent research project for your master's thesis. And that is a really enjoyable opportunity to investigate something that you're really passionate about, that you're really interested in. We have a wide range of different types of assessments, and students tell us that they have really enjoyed those. So you write maybe a critical essay, or you might do a book review, you might do a mini research project or a poster presentation, and those are very useful for developing skills that you might need if you want to carry on maybe with doctoral research after your master's degree. We have a mock court debate when we consider the legal aspects of climate justice. You may do some mapping or carbon accounting depending on the elective module that you have chosen as well. And we have some blog writing too. As Charlie said, there's a lot of support. You can make one-to-one appointments with members from the Learning Development Centre or staff members that work in the library. We have a well-being team where you can discuss anything that happens in your own life that might be affecting your studies that you're concerned about. The academic team are very approachable as well, so you can email or pop into any of the program staff, any of your lecturers, and you can always come and see me as well, and that's also useful if there's somebody else that maybe you can't get hold of or you can't reach, and then I can always help. So you have really quite a a personal approach. We take, we make an effort to really get to know our students, what their interests are, what their backgrounds are, what they want from the program, and then we try and really help you find your feet at GCU and make the most of your time with us, because it's a big thing for you. It's an important step in your career development. So we want you to not only see that as useful, but also as enjoyable. We also provide quite a bit of curricular and extracurricular enhancement. So we have a number of guest lecturers that contribute to teaching. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we took a real step change in the use of digital technology, and we've kept the good bits. Although teaching is now back on campus, we still make use of various technologies that can support your learning. We can sometimes use the center space as well for social activities, for organizing reading groups or discussion groups, or really whatever the students want. And that's something that we also look for students to lead those events, and that gives them the organizational skills that might be useful in the rest of their careers. We have occasionally external extracurricular events that we take part in or that are shared within the group, and we organize our own as well. So last year during COP27 in Hannah, who's here today, was actually in Egypt, and she was reporting directly live from the COP events and sharing that experience with the students. So these are really nice occasions to get some discussions going and to make sense of what's happening in the world without the pressure of being assessed on it. So it's very important. And we have social events and a LinkedIn group as well. You can study in full-time on-campus mode, but you can also study part-time, and you can study in distance learning mode. And distance learners are often people who have already quite a bit of relevant experience, and they can maybe just study one module at a time. Sometimes they might need to take a break when work gets very busy. And it's great to have those distance learners as part of the course, because they contribute a lot in terms of bringing their professional experience to the table as well, and really considering, well, what we're learning here, how does that relate to the real world environment? And you can start in trimester A or B. And if you study one term, you end up with a postgraduate certificate. If you do all top modules, you get a postgraduate diploma. And if you do your projects after that, then you have the full MSc. So there are various exit points that you can use. But we hope that you will stay for the full MSc project. Our students are from all over the world. We have students from Canada, from the United States, from Costa Rica this year. We've got students from Nigeria, quite a few from Pakistan and India as well. So it's really valuable to talk to each other during the classroom discussions. So for example, on my module, which is about water, we can talk about what water management is like, what the big water issues are, and we get everyone's experience, and that is incredibly valuable. So you will learn a lot from each other as well as from the lecturing staff. And similarly, we have students from a range of academic backgrounds. So we've got a few from environmental management backgrounds, some with sociology backgrounds, some from business, arts or agriculture backgrounds, and some chemists as well this year. So again, that really enhances the interdisciplinary approach that we take. And generally, I would say our students are highly engaged and highly capable. And I'm not just saying that because it's my program. This is something I keep hearing from the module leaders of the modules that are shared with other programs. They always say, your students are just so good at this. And we'd like, yeah, that's really nice to hear. And I think it's something that we are very proud of. Over the past couple of years, we've started working with external organizations as well to host thesis projects. So this is something fairly new to the program, but it would give you the opportunity to solve a real world problem. So we've had a student working with a financial services company and a student working in a housing association so far. And they have, sorry, my dogs are back, you might be able to hear. And so the students have really kind of gone into these organizations and investigated, well, what are the barriers to sustainable investment? Or how should we ensure that we can have a just transition when we are moving towards energy saving measures in social housing? So they're great opportunities to make yourself known to an organization, and we hope that employment opportunities follow from that as well. So like I say, this is still quite new, but we're looking to develop it further. We are accredited by IEMA, that is the Institute for Environmental Management and Assessment. They're very broad thinking environmental management institution, so they very much have interest and attention for the people side as well. And they organize their own networking opportunities, and they have webinars and resources available for you. And all of that is to really give you the best support when you are developing your career during and after the program. And our graduates have worked in quite a variety of careers. So we've got a few that are working in government, both local government and national government. So we have a director of a ministerial department in Sri Lanka. She's a real high flyer, but also somebody who manages the energy transition program of a local authority in Canada. We have various people working in civil society. So somebody picked up on land use as a core issue, as a key issue, and that she did her dissertation around rewilding, which is a really interesting new approach to enhancing biodiversity, and she's now working for Community Land Scotland. One of the graduates from the United States ended up working for C40 Cities, civil society organization that helps cities deliver equitable climate resilience projects. And we have someone who works at an umbrella body for various environmental organizations as well. And then others go into the private sector, either as consultants or, for example, in ESG roles. So one of our consultants works, for example, as a research organization that specializes in international development and gender issues. So really interesting roles. And quite a few of our graduates also go on to do PhDs, and we can support them with applications and the likes. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of who we are and what you can expect. But if you have any questions, then be very happy to answer them later, or you can email me. The slide has jumped a little bit here. So my email address is karin.helwig@gcu.ac.uk. And you can always contact me for a one-to-one chat if you would find that helpful. Okay, that was me. So
thank you very much, Karin. That was really interesting. Our last speaker for today is Hannah, who's one of Karin's students. So I'd just like to pass over to Hannah to share her experience, please.
Hi. So I started as a distance learning student in January 2020. So I'm probably one of the longest distance learning students at the minute, but I'm doing it one module at a time, purely because, as Karin said, there is so much that you can learn and read, and each of the different courses are so varied, and all of the information that you get given and all the papers that you can read, I have found it so interesting that I've wanted to really fully understand each subject. But that was, for me, that was my I suppose my motivation, and I have the opportunity to be able to do that. The courses that I've done so far, I'm currently doing Karin's course, the Water Ethics and Justice, and I'm not saying it because she's here. I absolutely love it. It is so, particularly at the minute, for anyone that's perhaps in the UK, well, everywhere in the world at the minute, with all of the flooding that's happening, it's really relevant. And there is so much. The debates are fantastic, and I'll come on to the lectures and the seminars. But I've done pretty much all of the core modules, climate justice, feminism, economics. I think the human rights one has changed, but resource management and circular economy and climate change adaptation and mitigation. They're all incredibly different, but they're all really, really interesting. And some of them I didn't even consider when I first signed up to climate justice. And as Karin said, I researched quite heavily, but I was very adamant. I wanted to do a master's that had both an environmental and a human social aspect to it. And GCU hit the spot for me on that one. And the courses I've done, I have literally covered everything from the courses Charlie's delivered, which I did the resource management and circular economy and the climate change adaptation and mitigation. And I learned so much in terms of how countries and societies and towns and cities need to adapt and mitigate in order to deal with and achieve net zero. But at the same time, understanding the gender and the equitable distribution, for example, with feminism economics. Have a newfound love for Marilyn Waring, which I'm sure anybody that decides to do, and I hope everyone will do the feminism economics. I think it's one of the core modules. It is just such a brilliant module. And then the climate justice was, I actually took that as my first one, and I found it to be a really good foundation to get to understand all of the other subjects and to get an understanding of climate justice as an entity. In terms of the lectures and the seminars, when I joined, I actually flew up. I know, not great for the carbon footprint. I'm based in Norfolk, but where I am, in order to get to Glasgow, it was going to be very, very expensive by train, but I wanted to experience the university, and it's a really, really great atmosphere. Everybody wears tracksuits now. When I first went to university, it was always jeans, but everybody now seems to be in tracksuits. But it was really lovely, and I had intended to go up more, but then COVID hit. And from a distance learning perspective, that really helped because we got a lot more accessibility with everybody being online. But since lockdown and everything else, we've gone back to, we now have a really great flexible learning where Karin, for example, I'll talk about the module I'm doing now. Karin is online, but we also get the opportunity to see all the students in the class. And then because there's a few of us that are doing distance learning, we team up together. So when there's breakout sessions, we have really good sort of discussions and debates. And we have our own, I don't know if you know this, Karin, we have our own little WhatsApp group for the water team. And in fact, I was one of the two or three people that started the WhatsApp group at the very beginning in 2020. And it's grown. We now have two. So we have a climate justice one and we have a climate justice topics one, where we have all students that are still that are ex-students now that have graduated. They still contribute, they share articles. So from a student perspective, it's really very engaging, and you feel like you can learn alongside everybody else. In terms of the services and the support, I just wanted to touch on it because I actually do and have first-hand experience of the pastoral care. I have an autistic son, and they are incredibly supportive. So whenever I've needed additional time for my essays and my deadlines, they're really, really flexible and they're very thoughtful. They reached out over the summer. I have to say, I've never experienced that before, and it was really, really nice to feel that level of support from a university. And from a career development perspective, I previously used to work in very fossil fuel focused sectors. I worked in Formula One, and then I moved and worked in investment fundraising for organisations that had previously spent most of their money or made most of their money on oil and gas. And since transitioning and seeing the real need for push on renewables, and just since I'd say probably 2018, when I really first started focusing more on that, and then starting this degree has just given me that, I suppose, that academic confidence. You know, you can read all the articles, you can listen to other people talk, but it's having that knowledge, having all those papers and reports and peer reviews and access to the incredible lecturers and professors that are at the university, and having that opportunity to learn from them has really given me that extra confidence. And as Karin said, last year I was out in COP. I was working for an organisation that was running a huge innovation zone that sat alongside the green and the blue zone. And since then, my career, as I freelance, I'm a consultant, has just moved, and it's now totally dedicated to urban regeneration and environmental and net zero. And I work across private and public sector. And a lot of that is due to the fact that I've really taken the time and enjoyed my learning at GCU. And they haven't asked me to say any of this. This is all literally ad lib at the minute. It's, you know, and I guess the final thing is just about the diversity of the course, because there is so much that you can learn from. You do tend to find that you delve off and you uncover so many other opportunities, and you realize that, for example, with myself, you know, I did feminism economics, and as soon as I did that, I knew I wanted to do the human rights and the gender development one. Whereas I know some of my other colleagues really enjoyed the resource management and circular economy, so they moved more into the environmental. And this course gives you that flexibility, which is just fantastic. And yeah, my experience, I've got 2 more modules to go and then my dissertation. But I'm really enjoying it. And it's slowly, but I hope to finish next year. But I hope that gives an overview.
Lovely, thank you so much, Hannah. That was really valuable to hear firsthand from your own personal experience. We don't have any questions from the audience on the chat box. If anybody has any last questions to finish up, put them in now. But otherwise, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone on the panel for their time, and everybody who's attended for joining us. I hope everybody's found it a really interesting experience. Okay, we don't have any questions that have come in, so I think we can finish the webinar here. Thanks everybody for your time.